A very warm welcome to our guest Marin Alsop today.
Thank you.
We're really grateful that she could manage to squeeze in this talk between concert in Paris and rehearsal starting in Amsterdam tomorrow. But somehow we could convince her of that Parma was really on the way between the two cities, and so yeah, it was rather tough. She had to get up at 4 in the morning. So thank you very much for being here. I would like to speak about careers in conducting for a little bit, and maybe begin with the namesake of this organization, Arturo Toscanini. He was a cellist. He was 19 years old, playing in an orchestra and was performing in Rio de Janeiro when the orchestra protested and said, "We don't like this conductor, we will not continue to play." And then because a replacement conductor couldn't be found, somehow they got to asking Arturo whether he could, with 3 hours notice, conduct Aida the same night. And this turned out to be a turning point in his career. From then on, he was a conductor. He was very well loved at the time, and then he had this stellar career just starting from that point. So I wonder, was there such a point in your career, and is it necessary for, or how can you get that kind of, to that kind of situation in a conductor's career?
Well, I think these sort of fabled moments, like Bernstein also stepping in for Bruno Walter, I think though, I don't know a lot of women that have had that same experience. They tend not to turn to the woman in the orchestra and say, "Could you step in?" But you know, I think you know, I had opportunities. Certainly, working with Bernstein was a lot of spotlight on me, and I've stepped in at last minute for things. But I don't know that that is what made my career, quote unquote.
If I had asked you at age 19 to conduct an opera with 3 hours notice?
Well, maybe not an opera, but certainly a Mahler symphony I could have. Yeah.
That's very impressive. Which brings us to repertoire. What kind of repertoire do you think young conductors should be focusing on to begin? There's so much repertoire in so many time periods, in so many styles, and I think there's quite different approaches between having to know everything in order to get the greatest exposure possible, or focusing really on something special.
Well, I don't think it's really possible to know everything, especially when you're, what, 20 years old. It's difficult. So I always work with my students on developing a sort of a list of party pieces, you know, that you feel passionate about and very close to, and that you feel you have something important to say. And I tell them to learn those. I don't think you need more than 5 pieces, really, 5 big pieces that you learn inside out, and you can conduct from memory, and you really have an opinion, you can rehearse them, and you can bring something to the table that is unique. And so I think that there are worse things in life than being known for a certain repertoire. Sometimes, you know, it's a difficult niche to break out of. That was my situation because I was known for contemporary music and American music. So I had to really make a conscious effort to do a Brahms cycle, record a Brahms cycle, and this kind of thing. But I think at least you can get in the door if you have some kind of niche repertoire. You know, again, it depends on what the attitude of the world is at the moment for women, always.
Well, there have been some really famous conductors, say Carlos Kleiber, who had a really small repertoire and got really famous with that. But I think today you're just expected to be able to do a lot more. And also young conductors at the beginning of their career are asked to do a lot. And we've got to this point when we talk about conducting competitions as well. And I had asked questions to various conducting competitions, and there's a rather different view. Do you focus on a particular repertoire, or do you just have to know you have to know a Baroque oratorio, a choral work, a symphony, an opera? What do you think is really necessary if you prepare as a young conductor to be a conductor?
I doubt anyone that that is on the jury in a conducting competition would say, well, I voted for this person because he or she had the widest repertoire. You know, they're going to say, I voted for this person because they have passion and they're musical and they have a point of view and musical intention. I mean, of course, you have to convey that to the musician, so you have to know the repertoire of the competition. But I think, you know, I don't think a competition needs to have a huge list at all. I mean, you can tell a lot by a small amount of repertoire. But then if you're going to promote the person in the real world, they have to have enough repertoire to do that. So maybe it's a balance.
Looking at figures like Toscanini, what do you think is the difference in conducting in Toscanini's time and today, without talking about women conductors, just conductors in general? If you want to be a conductor, what has changed since back then?
Well, I think a lot of things have changed and nothing has changed at the same time. I think there's a dichotomy that the expectation is that the conductor is omnipotent, all-knowing, inscrutable. There's this sort of archetypal image of the conductor as, you know, the unreachable person, you know, and that continues in a strange way. But then the reality on the ground, if you really are a music director and not just a conductor, is that you need to be involved in a lot of aspects of the orchestra, especially in the United States. Lots and lots of fundraising, fan building, you know, audience development, those kinds of things. And I think a lot of conductors aren't prepared for that.
It's been interesting just to see recently a few fashionable young conductors taking on one job after the other. Has the music director job changed as such too? Or why would youngsters be able to take on a job like Chicago? Is it really possible to do that at that age? Isn't what is expected of a music director, the experience, all the knowledge, is that really possible to do for a person of 26 years old?
I think he's 28.
Or 28?
But that's, you know, 10% of his life, so we don't want to cut him short. I don't know. You're asking the wrong person. I have no idea.
I just find it interesting because you've also held several major positions and continue to do so. What was the most challenging? Well, in Baltimore, maybe you were the longest amount of time and maybe did the most work of building up really a culture and a structure. What about the other positions that you've held?
Well, I think they've varied because of their location, geographic location. My first, I think, major position was with the Colorado Symphony, and I built that orchestra really into a very good orchestra over 12 years. And at the same time, I was in Bournemouth with the Bournemouth Symphony in the UK. And that is an orchestra that already has a big footprint in that part of the country. And so they're beloved. And all I had to do was continue that excellence and be present. And that was enough because they already had the infrastructure there. I think in America that often the infrastructure has been uh, not ignored, but not attended to really well. So there's a lot of building to do, a lot of particularly audience development. In Sao Paulo, that was easy because the orchestra was hungry to be great. They had a beautiful hall. They have a beautiful hall, and they had resources and the ability to do a lot of projects. So I did a Prokofiev cycle. I did a whole film series of the Mahler cycle, and which was on the public TV there. So I was able to do a lot of things, do a lot of international tours, because they had the resources. So it just really depends on the situation.
An orchestra, would they put the same trust in a young person than they do into an older one?
But I don't know. I mean, I was young once, and they seemed to trust me too. So, I don't know that it's a condition of age. I think it's a condition of commitment, and also time. I don't know how many jobs. I mean, I seem to do a lot of jobs at once, but it's a lot of work. I mean, I work really, really hard, and maybe I don't want to work quite so hard going forward.
Yeah, I don't want to see your schedule,
Yeah,
really.
no.
But I wonder, once again, conductors back then and now, conductors are always in a power position. They hold a lot of power, or at least they're seen in a way like that. And I'd be interested to hear whether that perception has changed at all. That you had these dictator figures like somebody like Toscanini, and today there's a lot of younger ensembles, younger conductors that try to at least pretend to do some kind of teamwork, that work together really well. Is it still the same kind of authority that you hold as a conductor?
But power is all in the perception. It's not. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to answer these questions because I can only be the person I am. I don't have a lot of interest in power, except that I like to get things done. So it turns out that I have a lot of interest in power because in order to get things done, you have to have the control. But Jacques and I were just speaking, also you too, about you need to have a team because it's not one person. And especially in today's world, I think the biggest difference is that the conductor, the music director, is not present in the community for as many weeks as they were, historically. I mean, 50 years ago, the travel was far less. The expectations were that you had one main job, not three main jobs. And so it's sort of a bit of a construct. I think that, power is about, I think power is in being able to motivate people, and whether it's your musicians, whether it's your board, whether it's your audience, that's where people's real strengths come forward, at least I think for me. So I don't know, it's hard for me to compare today to yesterday, because I didn't experience yesterday really.
I'm just trying to imagine what a young conductor, a student who is for the first time standing in front of a large orchestra, what is going on in your head, because you have to, it requires a lot of authority to hold all these people together somehow, no?
Yeah, but I think if that's what you're thinking about, you shouldn't be a conductor. I mean, I'm thinking about the music. That's all I'm thinking about, and how to generate a cohesive interpretation that's true to the composer. That's my job. My job is not about being in power, not about being in charge. My job is to be the messenger of the composer. And any conductor that doesn't have that as their job shouldn't be a conductor, in my opinion. This is my responsibility. So when I stand up in front of an orchestra, I won't take any BS because it's detracting from the composer and the intention. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't have a rapport, or you can't have some jokes and you can't enjoy the work. That's more of a style of working, but I think the objective has to be, the music always. That has to be what leads us, in my opinion. And I also, maybe I take a little bit to task the idea of talking about a career. Because I think as soon as we talk about a career, it doesn't interest me anymore. I think I never do something because it's a good career move. Maybe that's why I'm not the music director of Chicago Symphony. But I don't think that for me personally, it's just who I am. I do things because it feels right to my heart. And, when my manager said about going to Brazil, well, that's a terrible career move. I said, great, let's do it. Because to me, if you're obsessing about career, you're not obsessing about the right things. That's just my opinion.
No, I understand what you're saying. The reason, maybe career is the wrong word, but
Yeah,
we're in front of an audience of competition directors and
yeah, sorry, maybe I'm
competitions.
saying all the wrong things, yeah.
No. But what we are trying to do is to help young artists on, how can I say it differently? Not on the way to their career, but on the way of their artistic
Growth.
life growth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, then I think, though, that I really do think that everyone would agree that the things that win competitions or should win competitions, and mostly do, I think, are the important things. The connection, the passion, I mean, the technical acuity, of course, but musical intention. That's really, to me, what wins a competition. When a young artist is so passionate about what they're doing that it's infectious, even if you don't necessarily agree with every musical choice. And so I think those are the defining features, and that's what ultimately carries everyone.
Have you taken part in a competition?
Yeah, I was in a couple. I was at Besançon 100 years ago, and I was there twice. And the second time I got a little further than the first time. The first time I could barely find the town, so that was hard. That was tricky for me. But that was a long time ago, very early in my career. And then I did there was a competition, was it, what was it called? Stokowski competition. And I was one of the finalists, and I didn't win, but it was great to do, not so much artistically, but because I got to know a lot of people that I didn't know. And that's why I encourage all young artists to do these competitions, not to win, but to meet people and to get exposure and to see the broader world. But I think if you go into it with the right expectations, I think it can be quite beneficial.
I found it quite amazing to listen to your career, I mean, in the movie that we've all seen, or also reading about your career, how you created this exposure for yourself when you were not able to get into a school or get the position right away. You had enough of a network to bring people together and conduct them, to create your own orchestra and conduct. I mean, there's some amazing scenes in the movie too, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that time of your life when you were really trying to find opportunities and make anything goes, make anything possible in order for you to conduct.
Yeah, I think that's the big challenge for conductors, young conductors, is just having an instrument. You can't practice until you have an orchestra, and often it's under a huge spotlight and not the moment to really try things out. So, after I applied to Juilliard, I got really close. I was, right in the final round, the third time I applied, and then I thought, and I had been getting friends together to, play through Mozart symphonies with me, and all my friends said, oh, you should do this. You definitely need to do this. So my friends were so encouraging that I thought, uh, I'm going to create an orchestra with my friends and let them teach me how to be a conductor. And that's what I did. So I had a swing band at that time, as you know from the film, and they were all in my orchestra. And then I expanded it, and my friends really were my greatest mentors and extremely helpful. But of course, I was very keen to do this, so I wasn't gonna I wasn't gonna fail at it.
You must have had a lot of friends, though, to put it together. I mean, you talk somewhere I read
Yeah,
it
to
was like
some degree
three,
or the other.
four saxophone players, guitar,
Yeah,
or whatever.
originally it was a kind of ragtag bunch of people, but you know, it was, and we had fun. You know, I like to have fun as well, and so you know, people would say, "Oh, you got to come and do this," and so it just grew, and then there were a lot of people that I didn't know who joined, and um, yeah, and when I run into people that were in the orchestra, they all say, "Ah, I miss it so much." You know, we were rebels, and you know, we were playing repertoire that was really outside the box. We were playing, you know, we are kind of thumbing our nose at the establishment, and for young people, that's a really fun thing to do.
Sure is, yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the time when you first met Leonard Bernstein, that first
Well,
moment when you met him.
the first time I met him, or the first time I worked with him, it didn't go very well. It was at Schleswig-Holstein, and I conducted about 3 minutes of Beethoven's Second Symphony, which he had just recorded in Vienna. Not a good idea. And
Is that the one that is on
that's
the
on the
YouTube?
YouTube,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's on YouTube. But he was very sweet, as you could see from that clip. And I stayed and I watched his rehearsals, and I got to know him a little bit, and I just, you know, he was always my hero growing up, and so it was really exciting. And then I got accepted to Tanglewood, which was quite a shock to me. And the next summer, and he arrived, and then they selected me to conduct a concert with him. And I was sure I was going to have a heart attack and die before he arrived because I was so excited about this experience. And
What does it mean to conduct a concert with him?
so I was doing the first half of the concert, and he was conducting the second half. And when he got to Tanglewood, he came to the room where we did the class with two pianos, and he looked at me, you know, and of course I knew he recognized me from Schleswig-Holstein the summer before. And he said, "Don't I know you?" And I didn't want him to remember that he didn't like me or he didn't pick me to conduct the year before. So I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and, you know, pretended he didn't know me. And so this was, you know, so we went, and it was wonderful and really incredible connection, and became very close. And it was very, very funny because I went with him to Japan a year later he was opening the Pacific Music Festival, and I was supposed to conduct Beethoven's First Symphony, and he said, "No, you know, I think I'd like to see Beethoven's Second again." So he knew the whole time. He had remembered. So it was very, very funny. We had a good laugh.
That's wonderful. And you stayed in contact all over the years.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then, well, it wasn't, sadly, it wasn't that long. It was just the last 4 years, 3 years of his life. But because I lived in New York as well, and my parents were from New York, I would spend a lot of time there. So I spent a lot of time with him in New York as well.
So then you began conducting in the United States, and how did you make it over to Europe? Was the UK your first real engagement in Europe?
Yeah, I think so. I got a call because I was doing some unusual repertoire, and I had recorded a disc of music by an American composer named Christopher Rouse, and the London Symphony was doing a premiere of a percussion concerto by Chris Rouse, and Michael Tilson Thomas. I'm not sure how it happened. He didn't feel well about conducting the premiere. And so they called me, they found me, and because they were desperate to find somebody that knew this vocabulary. And so that was, I think, I was early in my career, 95, something like that. And I learned the piece in a couple days, and I went to London and conducted this premiere. And as I said to them, you know, I know the other piece on the program too, in case he's not feeling well, which was Mahler 5, but they said, no, he can do that. So I did the first part, and he did that. But then I started going to the LSO, you know, every year or every other year, and doing all kinds of repertoire. And that sort of opened the door for me. And I then started working in Scotland with the RSNO and yep, like that.
And you then finally got the position in Bournemouth as well.
Bournemouth,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. Is that in a way special, the orchestra, because it's outside of London and in a way a very harmonious, a very progressive group? How would you see Bournemouth?
Oh, well, I mean, it's definitely a community. I mean, Bournemouth in the UK is sort of the retirement capital. Everybody goes there to retire. So you know, it's a great audience for classical music because people have time and they're older. And so it was very nice. And the orchestra was really innovative, and we did a lot of recording and a lot of touring. It was fun.
What about Italy? I'm sure our Italian colleagues really want to know a bit more about your debut at La Scala.
Yeah, that was funny. At La Scala, yeah. So I think I must have been the first woman to conduct an orchestra concert at La Scala because they had a big press conference, and there was it was like the moon landing. You know, it felt very. And the first question that I was asked was, "Do you cook?" And of course, I started laughing because I thought, you can't be serious. And then we went on, kept talking. We had a good laugh, or I had a good laugh. And then they said, well, you know, we asked Maestro Muti what he thought about a woman conducting at La Scala. And he said, well, I think it's fine, but no woman could ever conduct Otello. So I said, well, you know, clearly he didn't have time to think about this. So then we talked some more and, you know, went on. And then, of course, it was a perfect setup. The journalist said, you know, is there something that you haven't done that you're really dying to do? I mean, it was just the perfect setup. I couldn't resist. So I said, well, you know, really only one thing that I really would like to conduct, and that's Otello at La Scala with Maestro Muti in the first box. So we had some good laughs. But you know, it turns out that Muti really has been incredibly supportive of women. And many of my fellowship conductors have been his assistant. So as it turns out, I think he's evolved over the years.
He's changed over the years.
Well, I don't know changed, but you know, it's an evolution.
That's great to hear. What about Austria? That must have been another huge stepping stone.
You know, Austria I was concerned that that might be another sort of challenging place, but I have to say that I found Vienna to be the most welcoming city I've ever been to. And maybe partly because they acknowledge the lack of diversity and lack of equality. The Vienna Phil, I think the first year they allowed women to play in the orchestra was 2003. And that's because,
on government orders.
Well, it was because Carnegie Hall wouldn't let them play in New York at Carnegie unless they had opened it up. But so I was naturally a little bit reticent or concerned. But I think because at least the people I was dealing with said, you know, this has really been a problem for us and we want to change it. I don't know if the Vienna Phil wants to change it, but at least the people. So Vienna's been fantastic, really enjoyable.
That's great to hear. But the other orchestras, I mean, the symphony and Tonkünstler, they do have women conductors. No, so he's not.
Yeah. No, it's much better now.
And in terms of repertoire, you do also the entire Viennese repertoire, including Johann Strauss.
I don't do Strauss.
You don't do Strauss.
Not Johann Strauss. But for the New Year's Eve concert, I'll probably have to do that. Just kidding.
We're looking forward to that one. But the talk comes up every year when they discuss the New Year's concert, and they once again choose their conductor's choice from 30 years ago. And
but it's like Franz says, you know, we want someone that has a long relationship with the orchestra. But next season will be the first season that they ever engaged a woman to conduct a subscription concert. Her name escapes me right now, but
then again, I mean, Europe is still lacking a little bit behind the US. I think in the US you had 14.6% of conductors were women, and in worldwide it's only 7%, and in Europe we're sort of in the middle. But there were some encouraging news this year, with Bayreuth, for example, for the first time having 3 women conductors as opposed to 2 male conductors in the Bayreuth Festival. So maybe things are turning to the better?
yeah, I mean, I certainly, I think the opportunities, there are more opportunities, which is fantastic. And I say it's about time. I think without the social movements that we've seen in recent times, I actually don't think anything would have changed, to be honest. I think without Me Too movement, which really pushed organizations to be intentional about hiring women, I'm not sure anything would have changed. So I think it's really important to now be vigilant about keeping that change as part of the future, and also allowing women to have the opportunities to grow, and not just expecting them at the age of 26 to know everything and be able to do all these things, but give them time to grow. And also, you know, as I how should I put it, as I mature, there aren't a lot of old women that I see on the podiums. I see a lot of old men, for sure, but I think we also have to be conscious of the ageism that that is a plague for women, and not so much for men. So, you know, there are things still to work through, but I wouldn't turn back for anything. I think it's much better. At least there are chances now.
When you look at the orchestras in front of you, I think the number of women in the various instrument groups has also changed quite a bit. Like in violin sections, we now have, these are numbers from German orchestras, but we have 60% women. But then it changes dramatically from violin to viola. It's only 50, cello 36, bass 15. But then you go to the flute section, 65% of all flute players are women. So isn't there some kind of a balance overall? And is the conductor really the most difficult of all of them to get into a position as a woman?
Well, I mean, this is an interesting topic, because, you know, historically, women were allowed to play certain instruments because, you know, they wouldn't compromise their lips or their, you know, posture or whatever it was considered. So women were allowed to play the flute, the recorder, the harp. So we still see a lot of women in these roles. Certainly not the trombone, you know, because whatever the concept was. But I think that the thing that I don't see enough of, and maybe that will change in the years to come, are women in leadership positions in all the sections. I see them in the tutti positions, which is great, But I think it's again an issue of leadership or a concept of leadership. And so, of course, the conducting role is the ultimate authority, and that's all about leadership. So it's magnified there.
We're getting back to what I called power before. Maybe it was the, the wrong word. But how do you learn that? How do you learn to be an authority? You're right. It's actually interesting looking at violinists, violin sections. It's 2/3 women and 1/3 men. And when you look at the concert masters, it's exactly the other way around. Even though there's been some progress made as well, and I think Vienna also has a woman concertmaster by now, but it's not easy to learn or to achieve that kind of authority and leadership. No.
You know, I don't really know how to answer that. It's you know, I think leadership is there's some innate qualities about leadership. Some people are natural born leaders. Some people lead by terrorizing people. Some people lead by cajoling people. You know, there are a lot of different leadership styles, but I think women have a particular challenge in finding the right balance, you know, because if we're too aggressive, we're always called a certain name. And if we're too nice, then we're also called a different name, you know, whereas men don't, the perception of men doing the same things is not societally the same. So, you know, when a man is very, very strong and very firm, oh, yeah, good, I got it. And when he's, you know, does gestures that are delicate, he's sensitive. But a woman is either the B word if she's too strong, or she's lightweight, you know, if she's too. So you have to find kind of a middle ground, and it's different with each orchestra. It's different in every situation. But I think the thing I would say is that if you have to be yourself. You can't put on the maestro thing and have it be authentic. I think you have to be authentic, and if you put the music first, I think you're in the biggest power position.
Very nice way to say it. Um, tell us a little bit about La Maestra, please, because we're all interested in competitions, and I think you were involved in the Maestra competition. They have contacted us, and we have discussed whether or not we can accept them in our federation, and there was a lot of people who would like to do so, but we also have to change our bylaws in order to do that. And
Because it's
because
limited
it's
to a
limited
certain.
to women. So I'm wondering, is it? They told us that it was intended to start out to improve the situation for women conductors, but that it would change after a few years. It has not changed, but it has grown in name and reputation. It has brought a few talents to the international scene. What do you think about that competition?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I was on the jury for the first two of them, I think, and yeah, you know, I think the intention is correct, as with most competitions. You know, the goal is to be a showcase and a platform for emerging talent. I certainly think there have been enough decades where there were only men in competitions that it's okay to have a competition for women conductors. And what I was impressed with was the ancillary things that they were offering, the support and master classes after the competition that they were offering a lot of the women, very much like I'm sure many of the competitions like Clyburn does, of course. So I was impressed. I mean, I think all of these things depend so much on the screening of the candidates from the first round and how that's done. I don't really know how that's done at La Maestra. So you know, but that's probably the same with every competition. When you get 300 applicants, I mean, how do you really make the right decisions? It's very hard.
That's very true, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we just heard that this morning. That's why in Besançon, you have 300 people coming actually to Besançon, and you did that yourself
Yes.
and conducting two
I
pianists.
think in those days, like, only 50 of us showed up, or the.
But have you also been looking at videos by the hundreds in
Oh, sure. I
making a
mean,
selection?
I see, you know, for the fellowship I started, we get several hundred applicants, and, you know, it's difficult. It's really difficult to assess someone through a video. I mean, you can get a general idea, but until you see them live and how they interact with the orchestra, that's important. It's not like an instrumentalist, you know, they have to have this connection and this ability to communicate.
How long before I can apply to this fellowship as a man?
I think you're going to miss it.
I will miss it. But tell us a little bit more about the fellowship. In any case, I'd like to hear more about it.
Yeah, no, this was I think if you saw the film, you know that Mr. Taki, who helped me start my orchestra, he said when we were wrapping it up, he said, "Okay, so now we achieved our goal. There's a woman. You have a career, or you're known." And he said, "But you know, now you have a responsibility to all the other women." I thought, "Oh my God, you know, just that's pretty heavy to put." But then I started thinking about it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try to start a fellowship that will offer the things that I couldn't find when I was trying to start conducting: opportunity, safety, you know, that you can try something and it's not a make or break situation, advice, you know, sometimes just friendship and support. And that's really the basis of the fellowship, and I named it after him. So.
And how many people are accepted into that fellowship every year?
This year we gave 6 awards. So we have 36 awardees since it started, and then we started an additional mentorship program. So those 36 mentor 30 others.
And then you provide performance opportunities for these people?
Well, you know, it's not really, we're not a booking agency, but I try to take them well, not just the current awardees, but I try to give opportunities to as many of them as I can. And currently I'm using many of them as assistant conductors, or they conduct the winner, her name is Elena Huron, and she'll come to Chicago and conduct a opening piece on a concert with me with the Chicago Symphony. So, you know, those kind of opportunities I try to create. But they're handmade for what each individual needs. It's not prescribed beforehand.
You've created a lot of initiatives throughout your life, and I'd like to go back a little bit to what you did in Baltimore, because working in communities and working for youngsters, for children, for students is also very important for all of us. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more how you created the Orc Kids in Baltimore, and what the program actually entails.
Well, it really was born out of my distress at the lack of diversity in the Baltimore Symphony among the musicians in a community that is predominantly African American. So I started wondering about why there aren't more kids of color playing musical instruments. And of course, it's an obvious answer. It's because there isn't the opportunity, the finances aren't there, and the tradition isn't there. And so my theory was that all kids are born geniuses, and all kids have the same capacity if given the opportunity. So I started with 30 first graders in West Baltimore. Very, very difficult neighborhood. And today there are over 2,000 kids playing musical instruments. And many of them have now graduated from college with degrees in music performance, in education, in management. And the program has become a real, I think it's a source of pride for the community. A lot of the parents work in the program too. So my dream would be that the Baltimore Symphony will now create, I'm pushing them to do it, will create some apprentice positions in the orchestra for the most talented of the kids, maybe a dozen or so, and let them play inside the orchestra. And then I always wanted to start, maybe I'll get to it one of these days, a choir with the parents of the orchids. That's something. I still live in Baltimore, so maybe I'll get to that when I have some free time.
You involve your students and the fellowship people as well in these programs?
You know, it's funny. I think that maybe because I'm so committed to community outreach and being engaged, I can count on one hand the number of students or the number of people in the fellowship I've had who have not been deeply engaged in community work or special initiatives. One of our fellows has started a refugee orchestra. Another who is adopted from India is going back and playing in orphanages. You know, these are people who are doing important things in my estimation. And maybe I'm drawn to them also as artists because they're complete human beings. They're not, you know, just the maestro.
Or the maestra.
Or maestra.
What about Vienna? Did you do something similar in Vienna as well?
Just a little bit. There's a program called Super R in Vienna, and so we've partnered with them, and they're going to do. It's mostly. It was born out of the Vienna Boys Choir for refugee kids or immigrant kids, and so we're doing a project. They're going to sing with me in December, a group of them. So a little bit like that, but it wasn't as easy, I have to say.
But isn't there also a kind of competition in between the Viennese orchestras to do these outreach programs, or is it not?
Oh,
really
I wasn't
being
aware.
taken?
I don't know.
Aware. That's interesting. Okay, maybe let's just wrap this up, and maybe you could give us one final word of advice to young conductors that are at the beginning of their career right now, where they should go, what they should look for, and what their chances are in today's world. And after that, maybe we can open up the floor.
I say the same thing to all of my students, all of my mentees. I say the same thing. There's room for everybody. There is the right place for you to find fulfillment as a leader, as a musical leader, as a community leader, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. I think, you know, if you have a passion for working with young people, that I can't overstate how important having a great conductor of a youth orchestra can be and how transformative that can be for so many kids in their lives. But I would say, as a young conductor, the most important thing is just to try to get experience and try to work with as many instruments as you can, and always analyze what you're doing. That's the great thing about video. I probably videotaped every single rehearsal I ever did for at least 10 years, and you know, really analyzing it and scrutinizing it and trying to improve. And for my students, I say, my goal is for you to be your own best teacher. So that's my advice.
Thank you very much. I think we may have a few questions out there.
Yes, I already have a microphone.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I? There's one thing, but what wasn't discussed, and you of course have a lot of experience of working actually with competitions as a conductor.
Yes.
The Queen Elizabeth, Clyburn. Of course, for participants, it's a challenge to go through a competition, but I think it's even a bigger challenge for being a conductor and doing these finals. And so I'm wondering, how do you tackle this, and how do you adapt to the needs and the artistic vision of the participants in that final?
Well, thank you for the question. I would say that it's one of the things I enjoy doing the most. I think working with this, this incredible level of talent, and it isn't always inspiring, but often these young people, they select a piece that they don't quite have their arms around conceptually. When I would say, like, maybe the Brahms Concerti are a good example, that they play the notes really, really well, but they're not able to quite conceptualize of the piece as a symphonic work. And then I can really be helpful, in helping them develop their concept and get to a place where it's a convincing performance. That's been extremely satisfying. And I mean, but some of the young artists, of course, come with a very complete and mature concept. But what I try to do is support their artistry, but also offer not advice, but suggestions, musical suggestions. And I have no ownership in it, so I never take offense. And I always tell them that, I have no problem if you discard everything I say. I just want to share with you my thoughts on this and how this could work. And usually it's a really fun collaboration. And I think I'm sensitive to the pressure that they're under. So I don't know, maybe it's the mom in me. I'm able to kind of say, look, we'll have cookies afterward or beer or whatever. But you know what I mean? Try to dissipate some of the tension, because it can be so stressful for them too. But I love working in these environments. The Queen Elizabeth was the first competition I really developed a relationship with, and I absolutely loved it. Every year I look forward to it, and now at Clyburn, I'm thrilled to do that and go back, because these are the voices of the future too, and I'm really curious about what they have to say.
Picking up on this, you have been conducting these competitions in Brussels and at Van Clyburn. In Brussels, you have 12 finalists each time. You work closely together with them during the rehearsals and the performances. So I can imagine you also have your personal impressions and favorites even at such a competition for the finals. Would it also happen that one of these people who have been in the finals at the competition, that you would give them an opportunity afterwards, since you have experienced them at these finals of the competitions?
Oh, absolutely. I've engaged a lot of the finalists from Queen Elizabeth, and I intend to work with not only Yunshan but the other prize winners of Clyburn. So, yeah, definitely. I think that's also important. That you have conductors who are open to giving other opportunities in the future.
Thank you.
I just want to applaud you as an aging opera singer.
That's you, right?
Yeah, that's
okay,
me.
Right, not me. Yeah.
Who is actually trying to work against ageism in competitions, especially, to keep on going and to encourage aging musicians in all fields and to encourage musicians to keep on playing and to keep our field alive. And I think one of the difficulties for women, why we don't see the leadership roles, is because they have to have families. And when you leave the field, in order to have your family, leaving any field at any time makes it more difficult to stay, let's say, even as a member of a tutti in an orchestra. What do you think about that?
Yeah, of course you're right about that too, and I think the age limit on most competitions can be a barrier for women. La Maestra has ostensibly has no age barrier or age limit, but I was thinking of maybe starting a competition for women only over 40. No, I know that sounds crazy, but I think it would be cool because what happened is that there's a whole generation or two generations that really that they missed out. They didn't get any opportunities. You know, the young women are now, you know, everybody needs a woman conductor, so they're having chances. But there's a whole demographic that just missed out entirely. And I don't know, I was thinking something like that would be interesting, or maybe a master class or some kind of showcase for women between, you have to be above 40 or you can't do it. Okay, one person is happy about that. Good.
Watching your film, I ask myself, and now you, how did you cope with those barriers that you had to break, with endure the nasty things that people told you? Where did you find the force? What was your mechanism to overcome this? I mean, the psychological effect. I know that the trivial answer would be, yes, I wanted to be a conductor, and that was the main goal. But above that, how can one not break after all those sayings and happenings?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, I don't think I was unaffected by them. I think I was deeply hurt in many ways, especially the things that were untrue and and baseless. You know, that's. But I I think I think really, in some strange way, I felt like if I didn't do it, who was going to do it? And I'm tough enough and stubborn enough that maybe by me doing it, the next person won't have to do it. Do you know what I mean? I thought, okay, well, I can, if I keep pushing at this door and I get it open a little bit, the next person can push it wide open and won't have to go through quite the same thing. So I think that always gave me courage. I'm not sure it's true, but I don't know. I think I just was born tough too. I can withstand. I mean, I don't want to, but I can withstand a lot, and some people can't. You know, I see some of my friends, some of my colleagues that really are crushed by things, and I empathize. I can see that could happen, but you know, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to know who you are and not let someone else tell you who you are. And that's, to me, you have to know your compass. And what I believe in, I believe in. And, you know, I'm just going to be true to who I am.
How long did it take you to get through that crisis? And can you remember?
Still working it through.
Can you remember your first concert with Baltimore?
Oh,
After
Baltimore. Oh no, it wasn't the first concert really. It was the I think the hardest moment was when I went, you know, when this whole thing, and they're saying these things about, they don't even know me, you know, and I asked my colleague Hugh Wolf if I could take 10 minutes of his rehearsal, and I went to the orchestra, and I walked in. This was the hardest thing I ever did, I think, because they weren't expecting me And they were shocked that I walked in. And I prepared what I was going to say for a couple of weeks, you know? So I had it down to about 6 minutes. And I told them that I didn't think I could ever recover from what they did to me. And it's true. But they didn't know who I was. And here are your problems. Here are the challenges. Here is how I can help you. And my goal is success for you. If you're not interested in that, I'm not the right person. But I won't sign the contract until I have your support. And they said I had their support. Whether I believe them or not, I don't know. But they said, okay, we support you. I mean, you know, it was a little bit of a contrivance, but I felt I couldn't go there without being clear. But, you know, in some way, I don't know if I said this in the film, in some way, it was liberating. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, but I didn't have to waste any time trying to be liked, because nobody liked me. I mean, they didn't know me, but they didn't like me. So all I did was I just started in right away to try to create success. Two things I wanted to create there: success and joy. I did pretty well with the first. I don't know about joy, but that's on them, not on me. So I couldn't answer your question, but you know,
You did.
my parents were tough. My mom was tough. She was a tough one, so I got it from her.
Your son is going to be a tough one as well.
No, he's a super sensitive, you know, just really just the nicest, kindest, most thoughtful human being on the planet, and I have no idea where he came from.
How do you manage the family life with how many?
Oh no,
how often do you see
it's a
him?
disaster, and it's still a disaster. I have no work-life balance, none, and so do not model your life on mine. This is what I tell every single student: do not do what I'm doing, because. But I'm still trying to get there. I'm going to try to work less and not fill my one free day off with coming to conference to speak. You know, work-life balance, I don't know if it exists. I really don't. And for women, it's crazy because not only, you know, women are expected to do everything and be great at everything and even look good while you're doing it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's beyond the beyond. But as I told my son every day, you know, if you need me, call me. I will drop everything. You are the thing I care about the most in the world. I mean, he never did drop, but I think he really knew that that was true, that I would drop everything for him, and I still will.
Do we have more questions? Or
I can't see anything.
are you ready? There is one.
Yes, it was very inspiring and very informative. Now, you have been saying that as a conductor, you feel the responsibility to convey to the audience the composer and nothing else. And that's your duty, and that's what you are committed to. If every conductor does it this way, the result could be very, very different, because the interpretation of what the composer wants to convey could probably be different from conductor to conductor. Now, how do you differentiate, or how would you recognize whether somebody is doing what you are doing in his way, or where he imposes his own idea?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because, of course, I'm not of the Celibidache sort of approach that, you know, it's on the page and that's what it is. I don't read a book and say that word means only this. I also read between the lines. I can't help, you know, I can't help trying to find the narrative, but I think it's figuring out what the deep narrative of a piece is. And of course, that's in my view. So it is my interpretation, even though I'm trying to be true to the composer. So there are going to be a huge range of interpretations. But I would say that for me, I go to concerts all the time. I love music. And I love hearing an interpretation that never dawned on me, but is convincing. You know, I think that for me, when I'm super conscious of the conductor, then I'm not really engaged in the interpretation. So I don't have to agree with the interpretation, but I have to feel that it is generated from a commitment to the narrative that the person believes in. Does that make sense? So I think, you know, we can't dissociate who we are from the message of the composer. So it is always, you're correct, it isn't just, you know, some abstract message that I'm going to try to get across. It's filtered through my lens of experience. And it changes too as we change and evolve as human beings. But I think for me, all I'm looking for is to leave a concert hall thinking about a performance and feeling emotionally touched in some way. And if a performance does that for me, even if it's an interpretation I never considered or I would never consider in the future, I'm happy because I feel that it was convincing.
You listen to many concerts?
Oh yeah, I mean, living in Vienna part-time is a joy. I think the last time I was there, I went to 7 concerts in 8 days. I mean, and the 8th day was my concert, so I had to go to that one. But, you know, there's so many orchestras, and you can go to 2 concerts in one day. I heard, what did I hear? Simon did Mahler 6, and then I saw Zubin Mehta that evening. You know, it was crazy. It was so, for me, thrilling. I love music. Yeah, when my colleagues say, "Oh, I never go to concerts," I think, I don't know, that you're missing out.
You mentioned joy as one of the goals that you had, and this reminds me of many problems that I saw in the spirit of orchestra players, mainly the tutti players. Most of them sometimes feel like factory workers. They are not noticed on the stage. They have to dress the same. They cannot bring out their personality. I'm not speaking about the leaders, of course. They can have other view. So how do you prevent depression in orchestras, among orchestra players?
So you saved the easy question for last, I see, yeah. You know, it's an incredibly important question. So I would say that you know, I think it's partly about the esprit and the valuation. You know, this is one of the problems. If you can only express value through money, you know, I'm going to pay you this amount of money, and this is how much I value you, you can never value someone enough because you can always pay them more. So why don't you pay me more? And then I'll feel more valued. But it's a vicious cycle because money isn't really what proves valuation. I think, you know, in Baltimore, I tried an experiment where we had a free service, and I said, you know, why don't we invite non-professional musicians to come and play with the Baltimore Symphony? And of course, the musicians thought it was a terrible idea. And I said, well, let's just see if anybody's interested. And so we put it on our website. And within 24 hours, we had 400 people sign up. And then the musicians said to me, well, how are we going to do the selection? I said, no, you don't understand. This isn't an artistic experience. This is a human experience. So we did this evening and we had so many people come that, and I wanted them all to be able to sit near a professional musician. So we would hold 80 people in like the waiting pen, like before you bat, and then they would come up on stage, and then we'd change out, and we did this like 4 times. And it has since grown into a project. It's called the BSO Academy. It's like a fantasy camp where non-professionals join the BSO players for a week, and they pay quite a lot of money. But why I'm telling you this is because it's now run by the musicians, this project, because these are people, these are community leaders or doctors, lawyers, teachers, nurses, grocery workers, who sit next to the musician, the tutti player, and say, you're my hero. I wish I could be you. And this is what each of the musicians needs to feel. So how can we translate that into some kind of culture in the orchestra that values the musicians in that way, makes them feel valued? I don't know the answer. I think it's a very, very big question and a very big issue. And I think if I were in a situation where I could effect some kind of change or work on it, I would love to do that. You need a team of people to really try to get into this and fix it. It's a problem, and it's also, it goes to work rules, it goes to union issues, it goes to a lot of things. But I think the bottom line is it's about respect and feeling valued.
Do you believe in rotation of tutti players?
If that's what they want, I'm fine on that. I have no problem with it. I think that the musicians, I find in Europe where they determine these issues more independently, I find that more satisfying than a union dictating how things are going to go, or a contract that has 400 pages of work rules. I think if we could get back to why we're doing this and really treat each other with, maybe I'm just naive. I probably am, but I think it's about valuation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll now have a coffee break until our next session, which is the last one of this conference on equality. The right subject after this.
Good luck. I hope you fix it.
Hello? Yeah, wonderful. So, good afternoon. We have here Dr. Lay, avvocato, a lawyer. This was not written in the program, but we said we would like also to strengthen the relations that we have with our associate member. They are joining us since 2 years. And he represents the IAM. It means Associazione Italiana delle Associazioni Musicali. So the Italian Association of the Musical Associations. And they have 195 members in Italy, and it's a really powerful network over the whole country. And Mr. Lai, Dr. Lai, will explain us a bit about the potential of this collaboration, not being only a passive associate member, but maybe also starting a kind of really productive collaboration. Please.
Thank you, Peter.
And he promised us not going more than 7 minutes.
Sure. Peter, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It is really a pleasure to be here. And your federation is so important. And also, I'm a lawyer, but I am also an amateur professional pianist. So the piano competition that you represent are so very, very important. I have no material because our president was a little bit busy in Rome and we had no time to prepare slides. But on the website, IAM website, you could find the last report of the association. Last report is 223, and we had 195 members, and we are divided into associazioni musicali, musical association, then orchestras, private orchestras, musical group, festival, and competition. Peter is with Busoni, is our member, and we are very glad to have also music competition into our association. And so the main program of IAM is to work in Rome into the politic affair as lobby. And the lobbying activity of IAM is to promote the concertistic music and the concertistic activities, because in Italy the public money is divided 50% to operas and to the public theater, and only the 20% to the private association that organize concert in classical music. So it's really hard with a few money, public money, to work in the best condition. So we also find other public money from the city, from the regioni, and also the bank foundation. It's not easy to find private sponsor in Italy. Now something better with art bonus. And so this is the work of IAM, to improve as much as possible the politic choice into to divide the public money every 3 years, because the public money is called FUS, Fondo Unico Spettacolo dal Vivo, FUS-V, and this money is divided the 50% to the foundation, Fondazioni Lirico-Sinfoniche. Yesterday I was in Verona, and we are proud that Opera Italiana became Patrimonio dell'UNESCO, but still Opera Italiana absorbs all the money, all the public money. So this is the goal of IAM, is to do a much equal the way to divide the public money, also for the private association as Amici della Musica. I'm vice president of Amici della Musica di Firenze. And so many wishes from our president, Mr. Francesco Antonio Pollice. We have a proposal for your federation that is to organize our network, to propose concert for your competition, some of your most important competition for the winner, at the same cachet. So to have like a form to offer to your competition. And so it's very easy for us to, we are a network, so to combine Amici della Musica di Firenze, Perugia, Genova, Torino, and offer concert to your winners at the same cachet. So there's no difference and no preparation between one or the other. So I would like to propose this solution to so we can work together, no? Yeah. So with Peter especially, you are the connection with the two big association. So I have no more to say. Please have a look of our website, IAM, and so you can have all the list of very important, quite important, Società del Quartetto di Milano, Amici della Musica di Perugia, all represented in IAM. So it's interesting network for Italy. Thank you again for the invitation and have a good work for this afternoon. Thank you, Peter.
Everything already, Kristen? Yay. So, on to the last panel. We're almost there. I'm so happy that you're still all here because I think we're going to talk about an important topic because we have already touched on it quite a number of times throughout this conference. For those who were in Hamamatsu last year, we had a very lively panel about especially gender issues within our business. And there was so much to talk about that we thought this might be something that we need to do more often, maybe even every General Assembly. But what I really also wanted to do is to create a more broader view of diversity and inclusion and not only focus on gender. And just to kick off, before I give the floor to the others, Jin, can you quickly show the thing that I gave you? Because when we talk about inclusion, I'm sorry it's in Dutch, because I should have translated it, and I should tell the people who made this that they should be more inclusive. Because this is what the Dutch government uses in terms of inclusion. They made this, they call it the inclusion diamond, and it shows you the different categories of specific goals or different types of exclusion. I will go quickly through it. So the blue one is poverty. Then the green one is participation in terms of labor, ethnicity, religion, and other life, that doesn't matter. Religion, sex or gender, sexual orientation, ageism, and physical limitations. So I think most of the times the discussion is going towards certain topics on this diamond, but actually, you know, for us it's really important to think of everyone and how we can work with in being inclusive in total. Just to kick off the discussion, because I think sometimes we forget that we are excluding much more people than you think when we talk about this topic. Now I really want to give the floor to just get first some examples of what has been done. Beat, you wanted to show something about from the orchestra side.
So thank you very much for giving me the floor. And I'm not representing a competition, I'm representing an orchestra. And I would like to share or dive into this topic, how we try to handle it. And I start a little bit in the direction as you showed us with the several types of discrimination. I also thought when we do a D&I session, I would like to share with you that when I speak about that, I often use those 4 terms, not just to be more clever than the others, because I think when we handle this topic, D&I, I as a presenter or as an orchestra manager, I see it from 2 different perspectives. One is audience development in a sense of selling more tickets to people who don't come yet. And the other perspective is being responsible to the society. And what I gathered during the last year that is the whole audience development thing becomes much more the idea of building community than building audience. Becomes, or both of course, but building community becomes a bigger topic for our institution. And what I would like to share with you is some ideas, some numbers from, first of all, from a German standpoint, then from a standpoint where we are located in Germany, so it's a quite, it's my own world to say. It's not the overall situation, not an international situation. It's my daily situation. And if you go to Germany, oh, now it works. We have one of the most important and biggest surveys was made last year about the relevance of arts and culture in Germany, and it looks great. So, and it's a representative survey. It's the best thing we have at the moment. So it looks really great that 91% of the German population think that it's important to have cultural offerings like theaters, opera, concert hall, etc. And they think that it's also good that they're public funded. And they also, a big bunch of people believe that it has really to do something with their identity. So this looks great, but there's a kind of a gap. The people who answer it say, yes, we believe in what we said before, but we don't go. Especially the younger people don't show up. They say it's important, but not for me. So it's good to have, but I don't go. So if you looked at the 43% of the 80 to 29-year-olds have not the impression that the program and the way the content we present really have something to do with their life. They don't think that they are engaged with that. And a lot of this cohort also think that when they think they would go there, or if they go there, they think, oh, that's not our place. We're not right there. So there's a big but on it. So we have to be careful. And if you think about this idea of representation from an orchestra standpoint, especially from a German perspective, the biggest population we have, going back to one of the segments you presented, in a sense of where people come from. So speaking of migration, so Turkish population is the biggest one we have in Germany. Overall, in the average of Turkish people in Germany is about 4 or 5% of the population. It's even different in different cities and different regions. I show you that later. Therefore, we did a survey on our own, and in Germany we have at the moment 129 orchestras. That means 129 orchestras funded by public money. These are theater orchestra or orchestras that are relied to theaters or to operas, concert orchestras. it's around 10,000 positions we have in Germany in those 129 orchestras. And at the moment, we have 62 musicians with a family background from Turkey or the country near of the Middle East. So that means 0.63% of our musicians coming from the region where we have, when we speak about representation on stage, it can be completely different than what we have in our cities. So next step I want to present to you is going more deeply into the place where I work in Ludwigshafen. And I brought, no, one step back, sorry. The other thing what I brought with you is 6 points why those people who especially have migration backgrounds, why they think or what the barriers are the most important for them. We have several surveys in Germany working on that, and that's the conclusion of several studies I found, and that's the conclusion I work with. What are the most barriers they feel? And the best way, that's the part of the survey I don't show you, one of the most important ways to overcome those barriers is to engage more with these people, finding a way of working closer together. Participation is one of the big terms to change this situation. So now going, as I said before, now going to Ludwigshafen, I have this picture brought with me. That's Ludwigshafen. Ludwigshafen is an industrial city. We have around 200,000 inhabitants in Ludwigshafen, together with Mannheim, which is just on the other side of the Rhine. We have 700,000 people in this area. And Ludwigshafen is an industrial city with 120,000 workplaces to offer. It was a city who was completely bombed after, or in the end of the Second World War. A lot of things were built just after this war, and the maintenance of the buildings and of the streets are a little bit problematic. So it's a quite good picture of what we have in the city. But if I go further to show you how is the situation in the city, so we have at the moment 61% of our population in the city have a migration background. So that means the majority, there is no majority in the society from this perspective of where people come from. And you see also in how they the percentage that the Turkish community is the biggest after the Italian community in the city, what we have. So the question for us is how we deal with that, how we can bring those people together with the orchestra, how can we bring them into our concerts, or how can we find to interact with them. So therefore our strategy is to open up. I try to use a kind of portfolio strategy. That means I don't try to bring all the people into one format. I try to open up the formats, and with every format I try to announce a different audience. The idea of mixing them up is the smaller percentage who works, but we try, as an organization, we try to be flexible as we can, so we're adaptable in several directions, and we try to be an orchestra once for them, another time for them, and we also try to find offerings for other groups. So just to give a short overview what we do, I have 6 different fields in the education and talent development. This is more in the direction you work with your competitions. So we work quite strongly in this idea of transcultural thing. We have an academy and we have our own ensemble built from orchestra members and members from outside of the orchestra with different instruments. We work on the recruitment and audition process. This is something which is also very important, how we bring in, how we can handle diversity, or how we can open up. Does the way of auditions we use at the moment really helps to open up? As an orchestra, we are international, of course. We have 21 nationalities in the orchestra, but we're not diverse at all. The same is for the team, for the management team. And therefore, we also work on the organizational and culture, structure, policies. It's not just the question how we bring people in, it's also the question if we have people with different backgrounds, if we have a more diverse if we have more diverse people working for us, do they stay? What can we do for retention for them? How they feel if they really come to us? And it's also important for us to diversify the repertoire, to open up, to do this kind of representation, even if we don't have yet in the orchestra, to find other way to find representation on stage with soloists, with composers, with conductors, and many other things. Community and engagements clearly reach out. Things are very important to go to the people the way going and not just inviting them is quite important to us. And in the end, also to find a way of monitoring and evaluation everything. We have a special board who gives us feedback on the progress we make or even not. So that was a short insight from my side, from Ludwigshafen. So I hope this helps us to open up the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can continue straight with Kristen, who can give maybe something from the perspective from the competition about this.
Thank you, Rob. I will be happy to. And then I just press this green button and everything will change. That's kind of like a dream. Well, my name is Kristin Reistad, and I'm representing the Trondheim International Chamber Music Festival. And our competition is not so old. We started in the year 2000. Here you can read our short story, Fantastic. That's my new neon sign, which we are really proud of. And of course, we do a lot of community projects and other kinds of projects, but I want to show the competition is kind of an elitist project. It's not for everyone to participate in such a competition. So if you have a look at Norway, we're actually second best in the world. Only Denmark is beating us in gender equality. Lucky me. I get 1 year of maternity leave in which my husband has to take at least 2 months being alone with the baby when I go to work. And of course, in Norway, we take our rights for granted. And it's people in other parts of the world have a totally different life. I do understand that. So now I should be the A student, but it turns out I'm not. This is not too bad. These are some of our happy and not so happy winners. You can see there are women and men, and the balance is not too bad. Here are some statistics. It's kind of half the winners, all male ensembles, 40% mixed, and then 13% female ensembles. And for the jury, not so good. 100% of jury leaders were men, and we didn't change the title from chairman to leader of the jury until just a few years ago. So, my point is that representation matters, but you cannot build a house starting with a ceiling. So, for us, what we can do, we can have more women in the jury. This is our first jury with more women than men. But we have also to look at the program, the competition repertoire, to our staff, and to our volunteers. Because we want classical music to be for everyone. And to achieve that, they must feel represented in repertoire, in artists, and of course, to see someone like themselves. And this is not something we can do in one day. So these are all the composers we have presented at a competition. That is kind of embarrassing, actually. It includes our commissions. Can you see any women? The one in the corner is Alban Berg. And you have Ellen Lindquist down there. Just one. So what can we do? We have to do something. Today's shifting cultural consensus and musical taste and a desire to present greater diversity in concert programs and teaching curricula, it has kind of blurred the definition of the core canon, that meaning the basic competition repertoire. And then, why am I listing so few? It's because for women composer, the situation was different. Brahms, he was working closely with Joachim. His string quartets were revised a number of times. They worked really hard, and there were many additions. Of course, the publisher have done their research, and if you try to play a Brahms string quartet, it's just perfect. For women composers, they had their pieces performed maybe once, twice, and even though playing chamber music was really common among women, there are many great female quartets. Some of the manuscripts are handwritten. There are mistakes in them. Maybe the wrong clef, maybe there's a wrong note. And you cannot just program something like that for a competition. So what we need to do, we need to speak to the great musicians. So I have actually had a short phone call with a member of a Norwegian professional string quartet, the Vertavo Quartet. And she said that they actually were doing a project, sight reading these handwritten manuscripts, trying to find which works are great and which are not, because we cannot present works that are not great. They have to be the same quality. And of course, these women, they're magnificent. They are really, their works will be in world literature, but still they are not included in hardly any competition programs. And I think that they deserve a more central spot. So we work with better representation. And for our academy this year, we have booked as instructor Jessie Montgomery, who is a former member of the Catalyst Quartet. She's a member of the Public Quartet. And she is also the most recent winner of the Grammy for Best Contemporary Composition. And she will be instructing her own work. And what is also interesting is that this year, for our applications for the Academy, for the first time, the quartets are asked to add a standard piece, a recording they are doing with a standard piece. They were sending string quartet by Henriette Bosmans and Caroline Shaw. And we did not include them for a competition repertoire. And I think we need to be proactive, because the world deserves to know this music. It's great music, some of it. And I think that the audience, of course, it's great to hear all the familiar repertoire, but why put the limits? I mean, we need to look at all the great music in the world. So, the competition is closely connected to Trondheim Chamber Music Festival. And I'm going to brag a bit because the festival is actually doing excellent on all this, because we have to report to the state with all our environmental projects, inclusion projects, and community projects. And we have been working with a female composer, not as a political project, but just naturally. And these are the people that have been visiting us. And if you look from maybe 2010, there are almost 50-50 men and women. And you can see the photo is Steve Reich, Kaya Sarjo, Caroline Shaw, Luciano Berio, Sofia Gubaidulina. And I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard at all. This is great music. So I think that we just need to be proactive and be part of development and not just sit down and wait and see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cici, I think you wanted to show us a picture.
Hello, Jean, please. Yes. And there's next one. Yes, thank you. So I mean, when Florian and Rob tell me to prepare, to being on the panel of this discussion, diversity, I think of lots of things, and I even, put in a diversity, words to the Google search engine. Then let me understand. I want to help me to understand what diversity means. In English and any other contents, because for me, I can talk about some diversity of our competition. First of all, our competition is founded, two founding members, Alice Schoenfield and Elma Schoenfield. They are both women and a great teacher, and one violinist and one cellist. And that's why our competition, every 2 years, will have 3 different categories instead of only one. We have violin division, cello division, and also chamber division. And our chamber division is specific for piano trio, piano quartet, and string quartet. Yes, so to be honest, from the history of our Schoenfield for 10 years in China, Harbin, we have actually more, women winners, instead of men. And also, because of we have, these 2 great sisters as our founder, that we actually implement a different structure of judging our candidates. So for the first stage of the violin and cello division, we have each 7 jury members. They will judge them for the first 2 rounds, live round in Harbin, and then for the finals with the orchestra, these 2 different division jury members, 7 plus 7, which is 14, and we will invite another guest jury member to join the board to judge all violinists and all cellist finalists. And from our chamber division, we will randomly pick jury members from this 15 pool of the jury members to judge for our chamber division. So this makes us very different from the other traditional judging system. And for the history, only very short for 10 years, but I think this diversity in our competition went quite well, because I think many of our candidates, laureates, have a very good career after winning our competition, and also by sharing other, member competitions, laureates coming from Harbin. They also, very embraced our elements. There's one point I really want to point out here is why the reason I show this picture. This picture is like a sculpture of Alice and Eleanor Schoenfield in front of Harbin Concert Hall. And that's all the candidates we have for the semifinal round last year, 2023. The reason I show this picture is that I often have a very, many people comes to me, ask me one question, not only in China, but also, around the world. Why and like a foreign artist named competition can be hosted in a Chinese city, like no matter what city, and how could that happen? I think this is the main point that why I said the diversity of this competition are really grounding well, in Harbin. And we even, many of the times we will have show sculptures like great composers, Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, in many of our concert halls and even music concertos to, to memorial them. But this is a different memorial for these two ladies in Harbin because they really bring their spirit of how music could pass by to next generation in another country instead of where they born, where they live, and where they teach.
Thank you. I think these three stories already are examples of how diverse this whole conversation is about diversity and inclusion, and how accents within this conversation is also determined by why you are, and what is the local problem maybe, or what is the local composition of your society. We've heard stories of Germany where it's about more about how do we include former immigrants, second, third generations within the society. Of course, female representation is a topic I think that's present everywhere, and you're talking about internationality and these kind of things. I want to follow up because we haven't heard from Caroline yet. So having heard these stories, what would you say Poland is mostly working with? What is the problem of diversity and inclusion in Poland?
Oh, that's a tricky question. First, I'll disappoint you all. I don't have a presentation because I want to discuss with you and the whole auditorium. But actually, I want to change a little bit the narrative of this problem, of this issue of diversity, because I think the competitions are great tools to actually show that classical music can be versatile, can be democratic, and we can use our competitions to also implement more diversity, equality to our others activities. Our organization is not only the organizer of Wieniawski violin competition, we also have other competitions under our care, but also we have many concerts and festivals. So I think the competition is a great opportunity to show to the audience that normally wouldn't be very interested in classical music because of many aspects. As you said before, sometimes there are psychological barriers because they think that it's not for them, that they are not used to the classical music, that maybe they will feel not comfortable there. But it's like with little children, they don't like spinach maybe because they didn't try it. So competition is different. It's like sometimes with soccer, and maybe it's very vivid in Poland. I think it's also seen in your countries and in your competitions that when there is a big competition, every single person in your town and your country and in media is an expert in this division. Like, I also like I like soccer. I follow all the championships, but when I have a discussion with my friends, normally they have nothing to say about that. But when there is, for example, the finals of Champions League, oh, now we are all experts. And the same is with the competition, especially here in Poland. When we have these biggest competitions, the audience is very versatile. I see so many different people than normally on our concerts, and we are not vanishing in between the competition, so they could also attend our concerts. Why not? No, they just like also the rush and the atmosphere of the competition. So this is a great opportunity to see its democratic face. For example, I understand all the problems with, for example, gender unbalanced situation in many competitions, but I cannot complain. For example, in our competition, maybe someone would told me, I even got some ugly mails, that we try to keep the feminist narrative in 20th century because we got only female laureates of the first and the second prize mostly, but our finalists are very mixed, and we try to keep it that way. And I encourage you very strongly to think differently, because we are trying to talk about inclusion, but competitions are a little bit contradicted to that idea, because it's all about selection. Yeah, we are cutting off after the first stage, second, and we want to try to find the one, or maybe the three laureates. But no, actually, I think this attitude should be different. When we are talking about these big senior competitions, very important ones like ours, that are organized by our members, let's see how much work was done for these many contestants, that they're actually passed through the pre-screening, and they actually won over so many other violinists, pianists, vocalists, and so on and so forth. So for me, they are all winners in the first stage. Like, of course, we are choosing them, but I actually heard last 2 weeks ago the beautiful sentence that in these big competitions, there are no bad performers. Maybe sometimes we can make some misjudgments, but in the second or the third round, they're all great. It's all about the taste and the DNA of our competition. What winner, what performer we want to create. And I think it's very important to know, because it will also help this young artists to choose the right competition, because they can use us, our competitions, as a tool. Please welcome, use my competition as a tool to build your career further, to define yourself as an artist.
I think, Caroline, sorry, I'm getting tired. Your statement is, I think everybody agrees with that here. Artistic values are the most important thing. But I think especially what you need to take in consideration is that we're talking here to an in crowd, and we are part of a society, and how are we perceived from the outside, and is the way that we think as competitions, is it still the way that is acceptable in current society? And shouldn't, as Kristen says, shouldn't we change from the inside the way that we operate, the way that we take things into consideration in order to apply to the test of the time?
Well, I wouldn't say I want to change it. I want to have development, and yes, I don't want to miss out on the great works. That's my policy. And also, I think that it's a big difference between what a symphonic orchestra can do, and of course what the festival can do, because for a competition, it's like Carolina says, it's kind of elitist project, and a lot of the competitions here, they're actually doing excellent community projects, and they have a lot going on. But as I say, you cannot just put some person who does not relate to classical music as a culture and listen, this is Beethoven, it's the best music ever. It doesn't go like that. And that is my point. So you need to start with what are the new voices in classical music, because classical music is played all over the world. It's a really popular genre, and I see only possibilities.
Yeah, I think for us, the idea of excellence is very important. To have the best musician on stage and to find or to go on with this high level of interpretation is a very important thing. But on the other hand, we have this situation that as an orchestra, we got 80% state money. So we got the money from everyone who pays tax. And if we don't serve the whole community, we have a big problem. Even there's the highest level on stage, as we believe, and if we don't reach a bigger part of our society, then we are really in trouble. Therefore, I think responsibility is for us a big thing, and these questions how we can find ways to this society that they will say in the end of the day we need approval, that this 91% say yes, good to have them, but on the other hand, they also need to come. We will not survive if this 5 or 7% of the society we reach out now. That will be not enough for us as an institution to go on and to have enough support from the society who enables us. And therefore we need both. We need excellence, but we also need people who has the opportunity to build bridges. I think that's very important.
Absolutely. You know, you're so dependent on your stakeholders. And if I can share a story, you know, in the Netherlands, we have the same thing as in Germany. We have a big Turkish population. I did a grant application with my local government, and they outsourced their evaluation of the supports by an external commission. And you have the opportunity to talk with this commission. And I was questions on what we do, and literally the commission said to me, we don't see in your competition any Turkish influence. And why don't you program Turkish music? And then I started asking them questions. Do you actually know what's happening in Turkey? Do you know where these people are coming from? Turkey has a rich history in the performance of classical piano music. You know, there are so many great Turkish classical pianists. You know, it's a revered art form as well in Turkey. But the thing is that what I wanted to make sure is that, you know, I think we need to be aware of our narrative, and we should stay on top of you know, what we do and how we do it. That's as you say, you know, you want to change, you want to develop with your repertoire, for instance, but you also need to be conscious, as you say, of what does the society want. You know, how do they see what you do.
But I wouldn't say that is the competition is not a community project. We have an academy, it's still for young talents. We have the masterclass for the students. But of course, the festival has a community project. And if you want to hear about it, it's actually kind of wonderful because we don't tell the new refugees coming to Trondheim, come, listen to this. This is the best music in the world. We ask them, do you know a song? And then they teach the song, and they get to perform it in a show with the symphony orchestra, the symphony orchestra's choir, a professional band, and there are, I think, 1,800 seats, and we have a group of refugees and Norwegians singing together this song. And this is a way, because their families, they come to the concert hall, because this is their voice, and they're often combined with Norwegian folk tunes because we have a lot of the same language. If you make a game with the clapping, these are universal kind of language. And for the festival, our audience is 50% students and children.
And yes, I totally agree about Carolina and Christine. And also there, I want to mention one thing is that, I mean, there's one word, inclusion, from BITS, I mean, your presentation, that inspired me that our, there, I mean, the other word of inclusion, it's exclusion. That's the one thing that competition cannot be skipped, because we do, I mean, in the process, we exclude people, but what we do and what we are developing, such like you said, we are growing, we change, because, and nowadays, we invite all our laureates, not only from the finals, also from the very first stage, to have the opportunity to, I mean, play the concert, not only the community concert, winners concert, laureates concert, all around the world. And not only between the period we are having the competitions, and also we invite them to come back, and yeah, maybe the next year and also. And there's also one content, since you already mentioned folk music, every time, I mean, in short film competition, we commission a new piece that was influenced by the Chinese folk music. So that's also some diversity we want to show to all the nationality and all the musicians in the world, that, I mean, how we pass our Chinese influence, I mean, folk music to all over the world.
Yeah, actually, it's really important to include everything what we can. As you said, it's for me the competitions and classical music is not a community project. It's a part of the community. Sometimes people have a bigger awareness that this is something very important to them. Sometimes they will discover that sometime, and sometimes they will be looking for that for many, many years. But still the problem exists, and it has so many faces, because we can talk about inclusion, exclusion, diversity, equality among participants, among jury members, but also among our viewers on YouTube and streamings, blah, blah, blah. But still we need to be very conscious about what we want to do, and competitions, especially international competitions, they are exterritorial. They are not about nationalities. That's why I really liked our discussion about the denationalization. But we should be open-minded and try to allow everyone with their identities, with their problems, with their background, to feel included. People with disabilities, people from refugees, minorities. And I need to say a few things about the topic that usually we don't like, money, because, you know, with more money, we could break so many barriers, because we can use more translators or some sign languages, but of course it costs money. The same is with everything that is needed to help people with disabilities. We have so many opportunities now to present music, for example, for people who have some troubles with hearing, with moving. That's why this is also important. We need to focus also in our applications for the funding, not only at the event itself, the artistic level. Of course, this is very important, but think also about people for whom we are doing that. We try to give comfort to our jury members, to our participants at first, but also we need to give the biggest comfort to our viewers and to listeners, because when they will be feeling that they are taken care of, they will also probably be more happy to follow the classical music path after the competition. That's why also we were trying to catch their attention with other concerts that were connected to the competition, with the former winners, but also the participants, but also we're trying to organize concerts with great, for example, visualizations, because people who are not very into classical music, they need something that they can be familiar with. And of course, the what they are seeing, it's easier at the first. So it's also very important to take care of your audience with that part, or that you are presenting them the best classical music, but sometimes you are allowing them to have something that will be more familiar. Like, for example, there is a great Polish pianist and performer, and lately he did a great project with Radiohead music. It's very classical one with some touches of Radiohead's songs, but still it was very, very interesting for our audience, and they liked it very much. So they came for very classical performances, and then they felt the impression of community among the audience. So please try to think about the competition also in this way, that we need funds for the viewers, for our listeners in that way too.
Yes, absolutely, audiences are important. But I want to circle back to representation, because, you know, if I hear it correctly, all through the conference, what we are talking about most is representation within the next generation of musicians. So representation within the group of participants in our competition. Of course, Kristen, as you suggest, we as competition managers can tweak in representation in our jury, the way that we have a repertoire and all the things that you listed, but we cannot influence, actually, in my opinion, I hope I'm wrong, how our participants, our representation is. Do you have, and do you do anything to make sure that there is a better representation within? Is there initiatives that you want to take, or are you thinking about this, or?
Well, actually, the young people in Norway studying music, they made their own initiative. And there was a big complaint to our biggest institution in Oslo, where female students said that I've been studying classical music for 4 years, and I have not been presented with a single piece written by a woman. And of course, this has a lot of reasons, because the teachers, they want to teach the standard repertoire because you need that for audition. And it's, you know, time is limited with the student. And so they are now going to change this. But the initiative came from the students. And of course, I think this is going to happen elsewhere. And it goes back to what we call the canon of classical music, what we call the core literature. And of course, we need the quality material of the pieces that are from the Romantic period, and it has to be published in a proper way and revised by good musicians. So I think it's possible to start with our educations, and then more people might find music that represents them, and we will get a more diverse classical music performer.
Yes,
audience.
but now you're talking about what they perform. I was talking actually about, you know, who's on stage, and how do we secure that you know, the people going into music education are a representation of society. And because that's becoming, well, you know what, if you look, you know, the discussion is quite often, you know, when people observe your competition, they look at the participants and think, you know, this is the representation of the competition, this is the representation of the next generation of classical musicians, and they would like to see people with a black or brown skin color, or they would like to see more females, or they would like to see all these things that we discussed before. But this is something we cannot influence.
Yes, just a short answer. In chamber music, I don't think this is the biggest challenge. Of course, we would like to have applicants from Africa, but we have a lot of applicants from other parts of the world. And of course, if we make audition or go to visit other parts of the world, we could reach out more. But I think that it cannot start with a competition. It needs to be in the education system of each country. And maybe we should reach out. I think it's an interesting idea. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, we both have chamber divisions. I don't think that's a kind of a problem for us. But I mean, but I could actually share, I mean, a very little story that we once, I mean, before the pandemic, we have a South African, I mean, chamber group which they would really love to come. It's a string quartet. And then when they fly in from their country, and they has to make many stops, I mean, in different country. And there's one European country that, I mean, the airport, I mean, the border, say no to them because they have to have another visa to get through the airport and then to be capable to fly into China. So, I mean, I would love to have these candidates to present on stage, and we even buy all their tickets. But there's sometimes maybe we have to talk to our government.
Yes, for the representation, you know, no one here, and I think anywhere else, is a clairvoyant, so we cannot predict who will apply. We can just then take care of the of being very accurate with the assessment of the whole process. But for me, the most important thing is the artistic level. Maybe I was very lucky because in the Wieniawski competition we had actually great and very versatile representative of genders, of nationalities. Even the age was very different in the finals. So yeah, I think we need to encourage people to enlist, but also to encourage them with their studies, because it's all about that. We are looking for the best, and they need to present themselves the best they are, no matter what gender they are, no matter from where they come, and how old they are.
Yeah, I think representation for us, as an orchestra, is one of the toughest thing we have to handle. Of course, it's much easier to change the question who is played, and again doing more female composers, or who is conducting, or who is a soloist. But stay on the group of people I have 90 musicians there, and I cannot change them from now to tomorrow. So they're there for 25 years or whatever, and this long-term thing is for me is the biggest challenge, because if you look at I don't know any other profession when it's designed to become a professional violinist is decided between in the age of 6 or 8. The question is, do you start at this age time with playing the violin, and are you ready to for the next 20 years of your life at least to spend at least 3 hours with your instrument, studying your instrument? And that's something which takes a lot of time, and we cannot forget that. And therefore, for us, it's very important, or what we try, at least in our region, is to reach every child from the age of 4 till 12, that they see every year, have the chance to get in touch with classical music and classical instrument, that they got the idea, oh, I could learn cello, or I could maybe play the flute, just to give them an idea that this is an option. But this means really work in the bigger society, and maybe in 20 years' time, there will be 3 or 5 people who say, okay, I will be a professional musician. I don't know. But this is really this huge amount of time we need, and we do something now, and we don't know if it really works or not. Maybe in 20 years' time, we see it was a good decision, or it wasn't the right one. But this is a real thing we struggle with, and I think it's a real work we all have to do. We all have to try to invite the society to learning more about instruments, learning more about what we do, and to bring young people as early as possible in touch with those instruments, and the idea of learning an instrument with all what it brings to us, to our lives. We all believe in that. That's not the question, but how we can share that. And I think that's a big work for all of us, and it starts at the age of 4, 5, and it continues. And that's really something we need to change. We need to change now, and maybe in 20 years' time, we see the result.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here. you see how quickly the perception within the music business is changing, the way that concerts are presented, the way that they select who is invited for the concerts. If we don't act now, competitions will be irrelevant. Is that true? I don't know, but I think I'm sure, you know, we can stick to our guns and saying it's all about the quality, and I'm in favor of that. Don't get me wrong, but isn't that the taking a position that in the end will be our downfall? Because it will be seen as that we are doing something different than what the actual society is doing. You know, you see that it's becoming more and more part of you know of subsidies, of grants, and even, you know, corporate sponsoring. Everybody is looking at these kind of topics, and in the end, you know, you need money to make this happen. And if you become irrelevant to the story that society demands from the cultural sector, how do we as competitions are going to react to that? It's a question.
It's a nice question, but I think quality, according to our competitions, it's not only about the artistic level. It's also about charisma and what the performer can do with the crowd, the audience. Because now, when we have so many great artists, it's something more. The impact of the quality, it's something different. So we will always be looking for this kind of quality. It's not only about the perfect capriccios or whatever. It's about also giving the audience and the people, sponsors, whomever, the feeling that the people who are performing for us, one, they are the part of the community, but second, they can actually speak through their music, through their what are they doing, what are they talking, how they are engaging in every single part, because artists also somehow lead us. They show the way how they have a really strong voice in the ecological matters and political matters. We are looking actually among our competitions for these kind of people, and they have to have a great personality, and that's why they also have to represent a lot of people, because people need to have a feeling that these are their representatives. So yeah, that's why. And of course, we can talk more about money. We can have also hope, because this picture on Kristen's slides was actually crashing. Probably that we have so many male composers, but you know, for example, maybe it's easy for me to say because Grażyna Bocewicz first was our contestant, then she was our laureate, and then she was also our jury member and even the chairwoman. But we have plenty of female composers' pieces in our repertoire, and we would like to have more because we have great female composers in Poland: Agata Zubel, Hanna Kulent. We can talk about many of them more, Jagoda Szmytka. You know, but it's also the matter of money, because it's like with the contemporary music, we will pay much more for these pieces that to be included in our repertoires, especially when we have the broadcast, the television, the radio. So there is a hope for us and for the competition, because I think when the time will come, many more competitions will include more contemporary music and more women.
I mean, to answer your question, and thanks for bringing up this question. I think that's a very good question to kind of finish this entire conference here. And I'm sure everybody in this room, in this organization, understand that competition is not for every musician, not for everyone. But we should be proud to ourselves, to our organization, and also this federation, that everyone sitting here, that we all work for different competitions, we are creating a platform that is very different from the concert hall orchestra, and also other agents, that we are not handpicking, any other musicians that it's now popular for the audience, for the society, or because of she has a good looking or a high ticket sales. We are creating a platform that we welcome all the musicians who would love to show their talent to all our society, to all the world. Thanks for pandemic. Now we are streaming all our competitions, that we have all international audience for our competitions and for our laureates. And don't forget, not only the laureates that we show for our competitions, the winners, they are the only star for this competition, and they are the only ambassador of the music. No, actually it's the competition itself. It creates this platform that every single citizens in your society can come to the concert hall and listen to these young music talents that they may not have opportunity to perform in their society or maybe in the other countries. So I really don't think competitions will be eliminated from the world.
Happy with that thought. Looking at the time, I said before, this is a very broad topic, so I hope we will talk about this many years from now and go to different kind of angles to this topic. But maybe there are some real pressing questions from the floor before we call it quits. Does nobody want to add something? Then, no? Oh, there is somebody. Wait for the microphone. Can I get one of yours?
Well, I have a simple question. I think, actually, Rob, you did very good on making representation more diverse in your competitions. So I would love to listen to your answer on your own questions, like how do you how you make the representation much more diverse and fit into the story that's suggested by the social trends now?
Well, to answer your question, Ping, I think it's about being aware that this is outside of my organization, but I have a responsibility to do something. If I take it back to the Netherlands, what is a big discussion right now is that about having representation of different migrant backgrounds. But the problem is that in the last 10 years, the government has completely scratched all music education funding. That means that music education is becoming more elitist. So it's actually not accessible for minority groups to start learning an instrument. So what we are doing with a number of parties in the Netherlands is actually trying to lobby to restore this, because that's what's going to fix the diversity in the competitions in the end, and in the working musicians in the country. You need to fix something at the beginning, but I think we, as part of that chain, have a responsibility in doing something.
What is your devices for will you manipulate?
Yes.
Yeah. How?
No, for me, it's always, it's about, you need to have a big statement. So it means that you need to get together with a lot of people who have more power together than just me as a small team player. It's like, so and it takes a time. Yeah. But because now the effects of something that happened 10 years ago is becoming visible, it's easier to start this conversation.
If I can add a few words, we should remember that our job, our mission, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So we can change it, you know, within few editions with many years, because with one edition we will create new possibilities for youngsters who will be raising up with maybe some dreams that they will try to execute later. But I think with creating the safe space for wide representation is our job that precedes the competition, because we need to push harder for the great promotion and many things we can do to actually help the best of the best from each region, each gender, each age category to come to our competition. Because, you know, when they actually be enlisted and they will start playing, then there is only a time for the artistic level and their charisma and their performance. Of course, we can talk about combining the jury panel and so on, but this is also something that we are doing before the competition. We need to trust our jury members, we need to pick them carefully, to have faith in them that they will be not biased, that they will choose the best from the best, not the best from males or females or European sports or whomever. We need to be prepared before and to recommend the enlisting and applying to our competitions much, much earlier than the competition itself.
Okay, somebody else?
Fiona.
Hi, can I stick my oar in as well?
Oh, please.
There's so much to say. I won't duplicate a lot of, you've made some fantastic points today, and of course it's amazing to see this back on the agenda. Everybody, congratulations on the fantastic attitude you've got to outreach and reaching new people. And yes, it's a long-term commitment that many of us have, as Rob said, have education systems that are failing the next generation. They're not getting a foundation in arts education, never mind the chance to learn an instrument to a sufficient level to appear in one of our competitions in 20 years' time. That's a massive concern. I think we all need to remind ourselves, and being in a conference like this, it's a wonderful place to be inside our rarefied bubble of classical music aficionados, and we do very well to think how the wider public view us, because too often we hear it's not for the likes of us. And what you were saying, Carolina, you know, all sorts of strategies that we can find that connect with our programs and make it relevant and accessible genuinely by actually reaching out and understanding what are those barriers and how we can dismantle them. Through digital, classical music has the biggest audience in history. This is amazing. We live in an incredible time where we've got living legends of the classical music world still with us. You can still go and hear Sokolov play a recital in Paris, and you've got all the talent that we find all the time. It's just an amazing, amazing time. And so the opportunity to reach that huge audience it's better than ever. It's actually a golden time. And you know, that diverse audience needs to see the representation. Kristen, your work is fantastic with the repertoire. We could all do by putting in just simply putting in works by women composers. We did that too this year. And when we looked at the set works, we were a little bit disappointed. We put in the Clara Wieck Schumann concerto in the finals. Nobody's chosen it. We put in some gorgeous chamber music inspired by your programs. Nobody's chosen those apart from one work. But what amazingly happened is in the second round, under their free choice, we have a ton of female composers. It's because when we recruited, we spoke to the conservatoires and the teachers and the applicants, and said, this matters. I was told by a pianist, sorry, I'll shut up in a second, but I was told by a pianist who recorded the Clara Schumann concerto in 1996 when she released the album. Nobody reviewed it. It sank without a trace. Nobody cared. They're falling over themselves to program this concerto now and record it. There are multiple recordings on Apple Music. It's everywhere, and it's all of a sudden become Radio 3, BBC Radio 3. It's everywhere. Every single hour has female composers. It's amazing how quickly it can change. People don't know what they don't know. If you give it to them, they love it. It's just a simple thing. We can all do it. It's in the communications that we send to the teachers who are the influencers of the people that come to us. and we have to be the bridge. We have to give the indication. This is something the world needs, more diversity in programming, performers, every aspect. And we are there, we're ready to accept it and encourage it. But those teachers, they need to make the journey with us, and we need to, that needs to be part of our messaging to them.
Yes, and if I may add, engaging with people is really important. What I notice is that we shouldn't always think for people, but we should ask them and
Yes.
think together, because quite often we do things because we think that they will enhance certain aspects of our competition, but it's not always the case. Sometimes we don't know why somebody didn't apply for our competition. Maybe that might have been the way that we have constructed our competition, the way that what we ask them to perform. Maybe it's, by asking somebody to play 3 recitals of 60 minutes, you're putting off certain pianists who don't have the capability to do that, but are fantastic musicians in the right themselves. So I think it's very important always to question people that you think, oh, he or she have been fantastic at my competition, but why didn't he or she apply? Start a conversation with them, because you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, and we need to challenge ourselves, because I love what you are doing, and I encourage you to push harder. But actually, what I've learned in this job, that we need to be patient. I'm actually a very impatient person, so it costs me a lot. But this is a process. So, of course, we can encourage people to, for example, as you said, include more female composers' pieces. Of course, you gave them the opportunity. They didn't pick it up, but maybe we can use some tools to push them a little bit harder. For example, encourage your sponsors to give a special prize for, not obligatory, but for people who will choose this kind of pieces, or do some promotional tour before the competition with master classes and promotional speeches that will show that this repertoire is also very wanted, because this is the old truth, that we like things that we know. So we need to show people new things, that the new brand new things, they can be also likable, and it will come, but we need time.
I don't know how you feel, but I have reached the limit of what I can absorb. So I think to wrap it up, I think this has been an amazing conference. I really enjoyed sharing all these thoughts with you, getting so much new ideas, new inspiring things in my head. Too much, so I'm a bit confused sometimes. But thank you so much, and let's continue this format and talking more with each other in the future. Thank you for being here. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Just a quick announcement before we take a break. Today at 8 p.m., we will all meet at the Grand Hotel de la Ville, where there will be 2 buses taking us to the restaurant tonight. The buses will start at Grand Hotel de la Ville and will then stop at the Maria Luigia if you want to get on from the second hotel. And the same way back, they will go to both hotels on the way back. 8 o'clock tonight for the dinner. Please be on time, otherwise you face a long taxi ride to the restaurant. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock departure, same thing, the buses will start at Hotel de la Ville, and then we'll stop by at the Maria Luigia. There is 2 buses, you can find this in your schedule too. Bus number 1 will take the whole tour, and on the way back will not stop in Parma. It will go directly to Milan, to Malpensa Airport. Bus number 2 will come back to Parma, and following a stop in Parma will then go to the Reggio Emilia high-speed train station. If you want to go to either Milan, Malpensa, or to the high-speed train station, please bring your luggage into the bus. It can stay there safely, so that on the way back you don't have to get off, that you have everything with you already. In any case, we ask you to check out before the excursion, so that all the checkout formalities are already done. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock.